In a rapidly changing world, computer technology is becoming an increasingly important factor influencing the formation of a young person's identity. With the growth of the influence of computer technologies on the consciousness of a modern person, a tendency has emerged that allows one to notice the increasing dynamics of aggressive manifestations of adolescence. Many experts believe that there is a connection between the cruelty of computer games and the aggressive behavior of teenagers. Considering this fact, violent computer games must be banned since they harm young people's minds and lead to an increase in murder and crime. Violent computer games provoke aggressive behavior and are crime stimulants. American psychologist David Alan Grossman notes that by openly selling violent games, society teaches children to kill, just as the army trains soldiers. Computer games teach how to aim and shoot, as the military learns by training on targets. The observations of Cornell, a professor at the University of Virginia, also indicate that adolescents who play computer games containing scenes of violence are more prone to aggressive thoughts, feelings, and actions. Children see a lot of violence in the modern world, and violent computer games are to blame. Many studies have shown that the impact of violent computer games on the manifestations of aggressive behavior is even more serious than the impact of violent television programs and movies. Empirical studies show that they increase the likelihood of both short-term and long-term aggressive behavior in children and adolescents. The acuteness and relevance of this point of view are confirmed by several factors: the more frequent statements of juvenile criminals and numerous claims by parents against companies that develop computer games. The increase in the number of juvenile crimes demonstrates the fact that violence in society is becoming a new model of behavior for modern teenagers. A whole generation has grown up in which the words war, murder, and terrorism are commonplace. Blood, brutal murders, fights, and the omnipotence of a character influence a computer-addicted teenager user. Moreover, in the games of the new generation, due to the latest advances in video and audio effects, violence is often embellished and aestheticized. An attractive image of a superhero is created, capable of solving any problems with the help of force. Instead of socially approved ways of achieving goals, the games offer actions that are contrary to law and morality. They often have a violent theme due to the fact that they imply a conflict. There is perhaps a no simpler and more dramatic way to resolve conflict than brutality. The nature of violence in the game has a clear resemblance to the behavior of a bloodthirsty maniac, since murders in the games are also for pleasure. According to the theory of social learning proposed by Albert Bandura, feelings caused by passive observation are more likely to lead to the excitement of real aggression. Anything that culture prohibits is allowed in the game, and a teenager begins to perform the same actions as the character. Thus, identifying themselves with the heroes, adolescents can break the law, ruthlessly kill, and take revenge on enemies. They can learn to solve problems solely with the help of cruelty and force. A distorted perception of the world due to violent computer games is a problem for modern teenagers. Violent computer games must be prohibited from the viewpoint of law since they contribute to the development of aggressive forms of human behavior. This concern is not so much associated with adults as it is with children and adolescents whose views of the world have not yet been formed. Most of the players who engage in a brutal hunt for each other are no more than 13 years old. Spending a significant part of their time on the internet, they are less likely to communicate with their friends and parents, begin to disregard their studies and health, and have sleep disorders. They are often characterized by impulsive behavior or excessive passivity. Along with a high level of aggressive manifestations, players are more likely to use unproductive emotional and cognitive coping strategies, which are associated with a reduced level of self-regulation, emotional immaturity, and inadequate self-esteem. Violent computer games must be banned also from a medical point of view. A teenager who regularly plays computer games becomes irritable, nervous, and poorly controlled. Tantrums, bouts of aggression for trifling reasons, as well as mental disorders can appear. Research has shown that play-obsessed teens are more likely to experience depression and anxiety than others. This is expressed in increased excitability and lack of communication skills. Inability to concentrate, sleep disturbances, anxiety, and social phobias arise. Children who play games with elements of cruelty are more likely to have fantasies associated with aggression. In addition, they themselves are more likely to become victims of someone else's violence. The child's psyche can compensate for the load it receives during computer games. The tension and intense excitement in which the child is playing a cruel game cannot disappear and manifest themselves in unexpected behavioral changes. Moreover, in some cases, gaming can even cause serious seizures caused by visual stimuli. Since the problem of adolescent cruelty and aggressiveness associated with computer games is now becoming more acute, methods for its prevention are being developed. However, despite there are ways of combating the manufacturers of violent computer games, they are not used effectively by the states. Therefore, the main work in this direction falls on educational institutions that have great capabilities to prevent the development of aggressive forms of behavior associated with the influence of computer technologies. One of these areas is the formation of an information culture among students. Adolescents should be trained to adequately perceive the information received, assess its reliability and quality, and correlate it with their existing moral standards. The computerization of society is a modern reality that cannot be avoided. Therefore, the influence of computer games should be studied in the context of social relations with an emphasis on the private determination of teenage aggression. Excessive cruelty in some computer games can turn a minor into a delinquent. The authorities of many countries today openly admit the negative impact of violent computer games on children and adolescents. National governments must look for ways to end teenage aggression caused by such games. The distribution of any type of product that promotes violence and antisocial behavior should be prohibited. Everything you need for studies, essay samples, writing tools, and tips, you can find at studycorgi.com.